What is the best enduro bike on the market dollar for dollar? I recently tried enduro riding on a handful of different bikes and I came to the conclusion on my personal winner. Watch to the end of this video to find out what I decided on. Early in the dirt biking season this year, my family and I made a trip up to Moab, Utah to ride some of the hardest public trails the US has to offer. These trails are so popular because of the overwhelming number of obstacles they offer. While most trails are flowy and smooth, the Moab trails are the opposite. This discipline of riding is known as enduro. The problem is that when we went to Moab, my brother and I had bikes that were more in a motocross class. We both thought this wouldn't really matter much, but by the end of the weekend, our clutches and pride were smoked. Over the next few weeks, I wanted to see if I could make up for the non-ideal bike by being a more than ideal rider. So I put in a lot of enduro practice with my motocross bike. The results were not stellar. It didn't take long before I caved in to trying out a Team Orange 2-stroke, the bike known as the enduro bike, the KTM 300 XCW. This bike does feel really good to ride and it climbs and lugs amazingly well. I will say I completely understand why people love these things, but by the end of my riding session, I had a few thoughts. When I rode the bike, I had an epiphany. The realization that what mattered more than anything was the gearbox. The gearbox is what makes these bikes so nice for enduro. They have a 6-speed wide ratio gearbox and the ability to crawl in first gear at 5 miles an hour, followed by the option to open it up in fourth gear and fly through a straightaway at 50 miles an hour, made it an amazing bike for enduro. I wasn't convinced sheer power was all that important, and I wasn't convinced you absolutely need a 2-stroke for enduro. That seems to be the sentiment of most riders right now. But I was convinced that I needed a wide ratio gearbox. That seemed to be really important. The KTMs have a major problem I couldn't get over. The price on them things. The price on those things are way too high. The new Team Green 327 2-strokes have a better feature list and come in at over $2,000 cheaper. Virtually all bikes on the market that offer a 6-speed gearbox are $2,000 to $5,000 cheaper than the KTM, and you're not really sacrificing much. So I began searching. I looked at and considered probably a dozen bikes, but I always overlooked one in my research, the Yamaha YZ. I overlooked this bike lineup because the last bike I had was a YZ. I assumed all YZs were made for racing on a track. I found out solely through curiosity that the YZ250FX actually does have the 6-speed and is priced at nearly $3,000 cheaper than the KTM. With further research, I found out that the YZ is not only arguably the best 4-stroke enduro bike on the market, but it's directly marketed as being at least somewhat designed for enduro racing and enduro riding in general. I've watched reviews for previous years of the bike, and enduro riding seems to be what people will use these bikes for. I also found out a lot of professional riders prefer this bike for enduro riding. I was convinced this was the bike for me. So here is the Yamaha YZ250FX, the 2027 model year. This bike weighs in at 243 pounds wet, is priced at $9,000 brand new, has launch control, a map switch, a heavy-duty clutch assembly, It has a broad power 4-stroke engine, slightly detuned from its motocross counterpart, electric starter, 6-speed gearbox, and a large fuel tank. It ticks a lot of boxes for an ideal enduro bike. So how does it ride? Here's a luggability test. We'll set it down in first gear. Let's hand off the throttle. I'm just gonna let the clutch out. Look at that. Clutch is completely out. It just pulls with no throttle. I mean, that's pretty impressive. No throttle at all. And you can just let the clutch out and the bike just goes. Pull out a second gear like that. Here we go, no clutch. Got some water here. We'll go nice and easy. Oh, not quite. That is a steep climb though. Oh my gosh. Look at this rock. I don't know. Just give me an idea.
It's slippery.
It is steep. This is a pretty good rock feature. Pretty gnarly. Kinda getting it. Oh yeah. So far, I am really happy with this bike, and we'll be making follow-up videos on the mods I do to this bike, so subscribe to keep up. Thanks for watching.